Okay, so are we good to get started? All right. I would like to call the Mount Greylock Regional School District School Committee to order. We are meeting remotely via Zoom. It is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 at 6:01 p.m. The meeting is being broadcast on RelayNet Channel 1302 in Williamstown and will be posted on the Mount Greylock Regional School District YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting has ended. If we could call the roll committee, last name alphabetically.
Bowen here.
Conry here.
Constantine here.
Elfenbein here.
Green here.
Okay, thank you. At Mount Greylock Regional School District, our mission is to create a community of learners working together in a safe and challenging learning environment that encourages restorative-based processes, respect, inclusive diversity, courtesy, integrity, and responsibility through high expectation and cooperation, resulting in lifelong learning and personal growth. Next up on our agenda is the student update. So I will turn it over to Charlotte.
Hi, everyone. Just a few, I think it might have been 2 weeks ago, Mount Greylock started our second quarter, and I can speak for many of us that it has been super busy, but that still hasn't stopped us from having a great sports season. And just to name a few of the successes is volleyball's advancement to the state finals, both cross-country teams placing at top 3 of all of their state-related races, soccer finishing out a great performance in the state tournaments, and we recently just had our very own play. And Shakespeare has been starting, which was Shakespeare. For student council, we have kind of focused on 2 or 3 primary issues. And we just had a meeting today with Dr. McCandless, Ms. Bruckner, and Mr. Schutz, which is always really helpful to have them join us and their input. We also started to have the student council officials, at least, meet with Ms. Rutz once a month to really be an effective bridge for the more upcoming disciplinary and school-based issues. In specific, this week for the this week until Thanksgiving break, we are running a tissue drive. It might not sound like a very pressing issue, but teachers have had to buy classroom tissues for the students or grab school toilet papers, which just isn't a lovely thing. So we have a pretty short, low stakes drive, which offers a snack passes funded by the council. And we kind of agree that it was a pretty effective solution. And the administration recently brought in Dr. Singh, and definitely myself included, we found him to be a great source of for discussion. There were 3 different sessions that were split up by grades, and each received a 1-hour presentation. And then the Student Council and Greylock Cultural Student Union had another 2-hour discussion that had followed. We talked about how we see things considering out of school context, but also race-based issues some of the students had faced. It kind of helped guide and push the Student Council to now become a more active in the eventual search for the DEIB position director and kind of helping to be a more constant bridge. The Echo will shortly be coming out with a new print edition in, I think, the next 3-ish weeks, and I hope you thoroughly enjoy. And thank you for everyone, and of course, have a great night.
Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Jake, I think I turn it over to you now.
All right, before we move on to the next business, and I've already missed Charlotte, but we're very grateful. Joelle and Jake Schutz and I were all invited to Student Council today. It's the second time this year I've had the honor of being asked to come in, and it's always just such an impressive experience to have a conversation with our Student Council, but it's also an incredibly hopeful and optimistic experience, because it's just the leadership muscle in that room is just vast and impressive. And so, Joelle, thank you for going, and thank you to Mary McDonald and to their leadership for always really extending an invitation. Joe and I were there in earlier in September, and just always a pleasure. So at this point, it's that annual meeting we all look forward to, the reorganization of the Mount Greylock Regional School District School Committee leadership. And so to open things up, I run this first part of the session as we now, as of this piece of business, no longer have an elected chair for a couple of minutes. I would offer to the elected members present here tonight that it would be appropriate to make a motion to nominate an individual for school committee chair for the following year. Sorry, Julia, I saw your hand.
So I would like to nominate Christina to continue as our chair for the next year.
Second.
Okay, that motion, the nomination of Christina has been made and seconded. Christina, I do need to ask, is this a nomination you're willing to accept should you proceed through the vote?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any discussion before you do a roll call vote alphabetically by last name, Carrie?
Jake, I think you have to call for other nominations.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Carrie.
Mhm.
Would any of the elected members care to offer a second nomination for chair of the Mount Greylock Regional School District School Committee? That is going once. I've seen some head shakes. Not seeing any other nominations coming forward, we will consider this closed, and I'll move back to where I was 20 seconds ago. And thank you, Carrie, for that. A roll call vote, a yes vote is a vote that Christina Conry will remain as the chair. A no vote means that you, although we have not nominated a second candidate, but you are not supporting Christina's holding the chair for another year. So with that said, alphabetical order by last name, if you would.
Bowen, aye.
Am I supposed to vote for myself?
Mhm.
Never.
Yep.
Okay. Christina, I.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, aye.
Green eye.
And so with that, Christina, congratulations, and more than congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, the meeting is once again yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now we need to open it up for nominations for vice chair. And Julia,
I'd like to nominate Carrie for vice chair.
Second,
Curtis seconds. Okay. Carrie, would you accept that nomination if it were voted through?
I would.
Okay. And before discussion, are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, any further discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Bowen, aye.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, aye.
Green eye.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes. Next up would be the nomination for secretary. And would anybody like to make any nominations, and then we can have a discussion afterwards? Curtis.
I would nominate Stephen Miller.
Okay,
Second.
do I have a second from Carrie? Okay, so Steve is not here right now, but he did express in our last meeting that he would be willing to accept the nomination if it were to happen. So should we proceed and surprise him when he's able to join us with the success if it's voted through?
Sure.
Okay. So we have a motion that was moved by Curtis and seconded by Carrie for Steve Miller to be secretary. All in favor?
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, I.
Green eye.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes. All right, and next, and then subcommittees will be determined at our next meeting. So essentially what I would ask is that everyone, take a look. If everyone's comfortable where they are, then we don't have to make any waves. But if people are wanting to shift, just, we can have that discussion. All right, so next up is the appointment of Jason McCandless as district secretary. So I would like to make a motion to appoint Jake McCandless as district secretary. Do I have a second? Okay, Carrie seconds. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, I.
Green eye.
Great, thank you. That motion passes.
Carrie,
Julia,
I just wanted to publicly thank the three of you, Christina, Carrie, and Stephen, for continuing to hold those three positions. I think this is going to be your fourth year in those seats, and I am deeply grateful for that work that you do. Thank you.
thank you, Julia. All right, so public comment, I have not received any, and I don't see anyone from the public on the Zoom right now, so we can move on to approval of minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the October 17th, 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Julia makes a motion, Curtis seconds. Any discussion on those minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, I.
Green eye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the November 2nd, 2023 minutes?
So moved.
Julia moves,
Second.
Curtis seconds. Any discussion on those minutes? Curtis,
Just clarifying, I'll be abstaining from this vote as I was not at that meeting.
thank you. All in favor?
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, abstain.
Elfenbein, abstain.
Green eye.
Okay, we do not have enough votes to pass that motion, so we will have to table it for the next meeting.
Did Steve just join?
I don't know.
Yeah, Christina, let me make sure that that's Steve's number.
I also think if we have a quorum here and the vote is in the affirmative, and that was 3-2, it does count. We don't have to have a quorum of people vote yes.
A quorum
So
of
this
the,
is Steve.
of
I've
those
just
present.
logged on.
Ah, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hello.
We are just, we have a motion on the table for the November 2nd, 2023 minutes.
Okay.
No,
It's no longer on the table. We voted.
Oh,
Right.
that's,
It
well,
would have to
I
be
didn't know
moved
if it was
again.
Can we do it again?
It can be
There was
moved
there was an
again.
edit I wanted
And-
for that.
Oh, there was. Oh, great. Okay. So what should we do, Carrie?
Let's just move the minutes again. You can always
Okay.
make the motion again.
Okay, so
I'll
Julia,
move
would
the
you like
minutes
to?
again. Oh, no, go ahead, Julia.
So Julia moves the minutes again. Curtis, do you second
Second.
again? Okay.
Yes.
Steve, did you have an edit for those minutes?
Was this the meeting before Carrie through the school committee conference where we were discussing the different proposals?
No. This is the one
Okay.
just for the track and field.
Okay, okay.
Vote
It
and
was the other one that I had comments on. Okay.
Okay, so any other discussion points on those minutes? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Bowen,
And
I.
just as a point of interest, maybe,
Mhm.
if you're not present at a meeting, you can vote. You don't have to, but you can vote to approve. You don't have to abstain. It's not required. Just so people know. Okay.
Say, Bowen was I, Conry, I.
Constantine abstain.
Elfenbein abstain.
Green eye.
Miller, I.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes. Okay, next up are the principal reports. Jake,
Oh, wait, but before we go to that, Christina,
yes,
did we discuss the minutes for the other meeting?
yes.
We approved them. Do you want to move them again, Steve?
I just had one comment, and if people are happy to just have that changed, that'd be great. If not, I would like them to be removed. It was just that I think it would be useful to have this summary for the minutes include the we raised with the proposed agenda items. I think it would be very valuable for future committee members to see how things were added to the station.
So I think what I heard is that Steve would like included in the minutes when somebody proposes an item for a future agenda. Is that what everyone heard?
I thought he was talking about
Where
the
several of several of us had
yeah,
for
so
the
he's talking about the
MASD
resolutions, Christina.
Okay.
Several people raised concerns about the resolutions, and I was asked to bring those concerns to the meeting.
Okay.
And I just think it would be useful both for Carrie as well as for future committees to have it documented what were the concerns, so that when people are considering making future recommendations for the MASD to act on, we have a detailed description of what we liked about some of the proposals, concerns we had about some of the proposals.
Oh, I see, because on the next page it says concerns and reservations were shared by some committee members.
Right.
Steve, you're asking
Right,
for
but
the detail?
I'm asking for some of the details. Just saying that concerns were shared doesn't state what these concerns were. And I think it would be valuable to state, for the record, what were the concerns?
I think the minutes are more general than that all the way around. That's a greater level of detail than is in any other section. And I think the idea is to refer people to the video because that's why the timestamps are there. So I don't think I would support putting more detail, that kind of level of detail into the minutes. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that's why we had the timestamps so that people could reference and get because that way you're getting very specific information out of the video versus something that's been paraphrased.
Mhm.
Julia,
I think we have a little bit more detail in other parts. I think just a very high level summary of what were the concerns as well as what were the things we liked. I think a very high level, just saying that there were concerns is, I think, too little.
I found it consistent with how we manage minutes in other places, and I would, I actually am more concerned about them being potentially not misrepresented purposefully, but I think the best way to understand those concerns is to listen. And I would like us to be thoughtful about where we alter our process, because I think that alone sends a signal. So I would advocate being consistent with how we are in other parts of the minutes.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Carrie. Any other discussion points on this item? Okay, so moving on to the principal reports, we have Lanesboro Elementary School. So we turn it over to Nolan Pratt.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I have like 3 buckets of information to share. The first is academics. We have implemented a pilot program for interventions called Number Worlds. I believe they're doing this at Williamstown as well. Right now, we have a couple of special education teachers with the material online and hard copies, and they're working on implementing this new intervention program to see how it takes and the effectiveness on our students. Another intervention that we have just in this last week started to toy with and implement is ST Math. Griffin at Williamstown Elementary School has been a great help in implementing it, getting it off the ground. And we have started using that last week as an intervention. We are also are really diving into our FastBridge benchmarking tool. There is a lot of information and possibilities with FastBridge, and it's just a really big thing to unpack. And the first 2 years, we've really focused on the data from the benchmark assessments, and now we're getting into the deep weeds of how to use it as a progress monitoring tool, which is effective as we have implemented our data meetings. So every 6 weeks, we're coming back to look at that progress data to see if what we're doing is effective, whether or not we're making changes or gains or academic gains. And if we're not, we're like, all right, what do we do? Let's fix it. Let's work as a team here and address these gaps to best move forward. A really cool example of this is in grade 6. Students were having a really hard time with multiplying decimals. We broke it down into groups, what they were missing, the gaps they had. And Mr. Bradley just told me yesterday that all of the students had like 100% on their most recent assessment on decimal multiplication, which was like a huge win. Last week, we had our parent-teacher conferences, our guardian teacher conferences. It was our first time doing signups on Parent Square, which definitely came with hurdles. But I think we had 95% of our parents in the building, which is always a good feeling to have parents in the building. And then lastly, for academics, we've had a ton of live runs of the week. Just last week, we had a parent nominate a student, which we don't really allow, but something happened during drop off. A kid was lost, the door got shut, and the older student helped that student find a way. And it's just a amazing thing to have a parent like, hey, is this possible? I had to politely decline, but I'm glad that it's, out in the community, making a difference in everyone's lives. So since the last time I was with you all, a lot of things have happened. We've had our pumpkin decorating contest. We had 5 different winners. The new thing that I've seen a lot of is crayon melted on pumpkins. It's very beautiful. It's very colorful. And it's something you should look up. Also, Dunkin' Donuts pumpkins are also a very cute thing to see. We had a lot of Dunkin' Donut pumpkins. We had Trunk or Treat. The weather was a little chilly. Actually, no, it was really warm, but it was windy. And the pirate ships that were there may or may not have blown away, but it was a really cool event. It was packed with Lanesboro and our community people, and it was just awesome. 2-3 weeks ago, we had our 4, 5, 6 dance-a-thon. I don't know if you've ever been to an elementary school dance-a-thon. It is amazing. These students did not stop moving for the 90 minutes that they were there. There's a limbo competition, a dance competition. It was all good fun. And it was a great fundraiser for our students. And then last Thursday was this very special event at Lanesboro. We had our Veterans Breakfast. We probably had about 60 to 70 veterans in our school being served by our 4th grade class. It starts with kindergarten saying the pledge. Then 1st and 2nd grade made placemats and cards. And then 3rd, 4th, 5th grades all had a little presentation or support some way or the other. Grade 4 definitely took on the meat and potatoes as the servers of the day, getting everyone coffee, pancakes, etc. But it was an awesome event to show those who have served our country the appreciation that they deserve. So those are past events. Some upcoming events tomorrow night. There is a K-3 dance party. It's right after school. It's going to be exactly what you expect it to be. It's going to be amazing. And then other things that are coming up fundraiser wise, we have trivia night in early December, the basketball game, which I think is in February, the student versus staff basketball game. I don't know if you heard about the results last year, but I think the staff lost 127 to 123. It was a really close game and a really great fundraiser. And that's all I have for you tonight. What questions do you have for me? Carrie.
Thanks, Nolan. I sense a dance theme going on here. 2 dance events. It's great.
Yes, we love our dancing. So
you love dancing. So interventions. You mentioned 2 math interventions, and I'm just wondering if you could explain what you mean by intervention. Is it only for students who are struggling with math, or do all students use these programs?
So the ST Math is a online based wordless application that any student can use. It can be used during intervention time, and that's when we would use it. We wouldn't, we use it when we don't have a whole class. Number Worlds is a game-based intervention that's really used outside the classroom with a special education teacher or an interventionist.
Thanks.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Nolan. Okay, next up on our agenda, policy subcommittee report. I get to turn it over to Jose.
Thank you, Christina. An unfortunate set of circumstances meant that I had to miss our subcommittee report. That unfortunate set of circumstances was coaching our 4th grade soccer team. But thankfully, Julia and Curtis were there with Jake. And so that baton that you passed to me, I will pass on to Julia.
Thank you. There are 2 updates from that are meeting, 2 topics that we discussed. One is the library material selection policy, policy IJL. And in a moment, Curtis will read that for a first read this evening. And the second thing that we discussed is we had received a request that our policies would be grounded in science, and that we will state what science is guiding our decisions, or if we have to act quickly, we will state as soon as we can. We discussed this and agreed that asking the school committee to become experts in the evaluation of scientific data and facts is well outside our skill set and job description, but we would gladly commit to trusting the experts who are proficient in the collection, analysis and interpretation of data to best advise our decision-making process, and to name those experts explicitly. And I think in that regard, we're talking about the Department of Ed, the Board of Health, our pediatricians, our legal counsel, the Mass Association of School Committees, those experts who are meant to be and already do advise districts across the state. I'm going to turn it now, Carrie.
Can I just ask a question about that? Is it possible, I was thinking about this request because I'd heard about it as well, and I wonder if there might be situations where you could ask for specific resources that your resources are using to make their decisions, and to be able to reference those specifically.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that would be fair. And I think that's, I say sure, but I feel like that's the decision of the committee, right? I mean, that our discussion was we weren't going to put together a policy. If we should create a specific policy that says we'll do that, then we should do that. But otherwise, I feel like it's a commitment we make to each other when we discuss something, right?
To reference
to reference
the experts.
Yes, and
That we're
any
consulting.
data that we're consulting and any data that they might be using. I mean, I think we could
Yep.
collectively aim to do that.
Yep,
Sure.
got it. Thanks.
If I can turn it now to our resident reader and ask Curtis to please read policy IJL.
Will do. Perfect timing. IJL, Material Selection and Review Policy. The Mount Greylock Regional School District has 3 automated libraries serving the students and staff of Lanesboro Elementary School, Mount Greylock Regional School, and Williamstown Elementary School. The following are our policies for material selection. Purpose. The purpose of the MGRSD selection policy is to establish guidelines for the acquisition and withdrawal of materials for the libraries and to enhance our commitment to the students of our district as lifelong readers and learners. This document should be reviewed every 5 years, and any question about policy or acquisition should be directed to the appropriate school librarian. Mission. The MGRSD library mission statement is as follows. The libraries support every student in our district in developing the skills needed to become a lifelong learner through the use of library materials. The libraries support the school's curricula and the state curriculum frameworks in its collection development and skills lessons. The libraries support the intellectual growth, individual interests, and recreational needs of students. The libraries provide an atmosphere that promotes mutual respect and responsibility. The library staff is committed to clarify for teachers, students, parents, and community members what library resources are available and to make them accessible to all. Selection responsibility. The MGRSD School Committee, via the superintendent and principals, have delegated the responsibility of running the libraries to the school library media specialists who coordinate, select, and purchase all library materials. Selection of materials involves recommendations from teachers, students, review sources, school curricula, and the state curriculum frameworks. Collection development shall be content neutral so that the library represents a wide range of viewpoints on subjects of interest. The librarians are responsible for the withdrawal of library materials according to approved methods later stated. The MGRSD libraries endorse the American Library Association's Freedom to Read statement and the Library Bill of Rights. Collection priorities. Collection priority is given to starred and favorable journal reviews, recommendations from teachers and with some consideration students, print over non-print materials, school and state frameworks, curriculum guides. Emphasis is on up-to-date information, replacement of worn, damaged, consistently used books, unabridged editions over abridged editions, hardcover over paperback, and books to meet all levels of readers. Easy fiction picture books. Easy picture books are chosen for readers preschool through grade 3, as well as enjoyment for all grade levels. An attempt is made to, there's an asterisk there that I'll read later. An attempt is made to select a wide variety of fiction books for this age group, considering the text and successful integration of illustrations. Selection consideration also includes varying fiction genres, reading levels appropriate for the age group, and stories that reflect and celebrate diverse communities. MGRS curates a selection of easy fiction picture books for enjoyment and class projects, was the asterisk. Easy nonfiction. Easy nonfiction books are chosen for readers preschool through grade 3, as well as enjoyment for all grade levels, asterisk. Selection is made considering the curriculum for these grades, as well as particular interest areas of this age level. The asterisk MGRS curates a selection of easy nonfiction for enjoyment in class projects. Middle grade fiction. Middle grade fiction books are selected for grades 4 through 8. Books appropriate for up to 8th grade are considered for advanced students at Lanesboro Elementary School and Williamstown Elementary School, as well as taking into account that grades 5 through 8 is a common grade grouping in reader recommendation through publishers. Book selection is based on the school's curricula and the state frameworks, as well as maintaining a collection of stories that reflect and celebrate diverse communities. Middle grade nonfiction. Nonfiction books are selected for grades 4 through 8. Books appropriate for up to 8th grade are considered for advanced students at Lanesboro Elementary School and Williamstown Elementary School, as well as taking into account that grades 5 through 8 is a common grade grouping in a reader recommendation through publishers. Book selection is based on the school's curricula and the state frameworks, as well as maintaining a collection of information that reflects and celebrates diverse communities. Consideration is given to development of all nonfiction topics. YA, young adult, adult fiction, MGRS only. YA and adult fiction books are selected for grades 9 through 12. Book selection is based on the school's curriculum and the state frameworks, as well as maintaining a collection of stories that reflect and celebrate diverse communities. As a grades 7 through 12 school, our collection has materials for a wide range of ages, as well as emotional and academic readiness. As a result, it may have library materials that are better suited for specific levels of readers and thinkers. To assist users in their choices, all materials are labeled by their intended audience using tween, YA, and adult spine labels. The MGRS library is not self-checkout, which allows the librarian to initiate conversations with students about their selections as appropriate. In addition, library users can always consult with the school librarian. YA adult nonfiction, MGRS only. YA and adult nonfiction books are selected for grades 9 through 12. Book selection is based on the school's curricula and the state frameworks, as well as maintaining a collection of information that reflects and celebrates diverse communities. Consideration is given to development of all nonfiction topics. Professional collection. Professional books are selected for staff. Selection is made by faculty and administration recommendations. Periodicals. A number of periodicals are subscribed to annually by the libraries for the students and teachers. The selected periodicals primarily deal with science and social studies for students, with a limited number specializing in popular culture. Teacher periodicals subscribed by the administration are housed in the library. All magazines are for library use only. Computer software and subscriptions. Computer software and subscriptions are reviewed and purchased by the district and school administration teams. Selection tools. Selection tools include, but are not limited to, reviews in the professional library journals, specifically the School Library Journal, the Horn Book, and Kirkus reviews. Prestigious children's and YA book awards. Book recommendation groups, specifically We Need Diverse Books and Publishers Weekly, as well as Book List. Newspaper reviews, state framework and curricula bibliographies, teacher recommendations, publisher catalogs, student recommendations. Selection criteria. Materials are selected with one or more of the following criteria: accuracy and clarity of information, starred or favorable reviews, literary, historic, and/or scientific significance, diverse and authentic voices and communities, reputation of the author, relationship to existing collection, price in relation to budget, durability, popular demand, local relevance, and permanent significance. Collection evaluation / discarding and replacement of materials. In order to maintain a vital and current collection that meets the needs of our school, weeding is an ongoing process. Book withdrawal is an important part of collection development. We've adopted the CREW method of evaluation developed by Joseph P. Siegel at Texas State Library. This process of continuous review, evaluation, and weeding uses the following criteria to evaluate a title's current usefulness. M, misleading and or factually inaccurate. U, ugly, worn, and beyond mending. S, superseded by a truly new edition or a much better book on the subject. T, trivial, of no discernible literary or scientific merit. Y, your collection has no use for this book, irrelevant to the needs and interests. Those spell out musty, by the way. We also consider the date of publication and date of last circulation, or the number of circulations per year. Controversial material. Occasionally, objections to materials may be made. MGRSD will only review complaints made by persons who reside in or are members of the MGRSD community and or member towns via the reconsideration of library media material form. The MGRSD libraries support and refer to the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, the Library Bill of Rights adopted by the American Library Association Council, the Freedom to Read Statement adopted by the American Library Association Council and the AAP Freedom to Read Committee. If a complaint is made, 1, refer the complainant to the selection procedures and make no comment. 2, refer the complainant to reviews of the questioned materials. 3, invite the complainant to put their objections in writing and send the complainant a copy of the request for reconsideration of school library media material for submitting a formal complaint to a materials review committee to be appointed by the superintendent of schools annually. Sub A, the materials review committee shall consist of the following: 1 school or district administrator who shall act as a chairperson, 2 teachers from the school district, 3 1 librarian from either the Lanesboro or Williamstown town libraries, 4 2 community members, 1 from Lanesboro and 1 from Williamstown, and 5, if the complaint is related to the MGRS library, 1 MGRS student. The special committee will re-examine the challenged materials. They will weigh merits of material against alleged faults, look at reviews of the questioned material, discuss the material, and prepare a written recommendation to the superintendent. Final decision of the superintendent will be made to the complainant and school community in writing. The questioned material will remain on the library shelf circulating until a final decision is reached. If, after the reconsideration process, the material is deemed appropriate and remains in the library, it cannot be formally challenged again for at least 5 years. Gifts. Gifts of books are accepted with the understanding that the same criteria for a book's selection be applied to the gift book. The library cannot make cash assessments of donations for tax purposes. The donor is made aware that books may be used in the school's recycled reads or similar programs. And then there is a resource link to the reconsideration of library media material form and a cross-reference link for the IJLA Library Resources KE for public complaints.
Thank you, Curtis. I think we should all be clapping for that performance. Thank you very much.
Good night, everybody.
Exactly.
Can I ask Curtis a question?
Yeah.
So when you were reading it, at one point you said that if it's challenged and it is found not to be a valid challenge, it cannot be challenged again for 5 years.
That is correct.
What if it's challenged and the challenge is successful? Does it go in the other direction as well, that you cannot challenge the successful challenge for 5 years?
Meaning, if a book is challenged and removed, could it be proposed for addition to the collection?
Correct. Or do you have
years?
to wait 5 years for it? Right.
Can I just make a point of order? So this is a first read and we're not actually allowed to discuss it, I believe. But write a note, Steve, and bring it up.
I think, yeah,
next.
sorry, Carrie. Yeah, I think feedback now would be great as we,
Right.
this will be on a subcommittee agenda for us to incorporate feedback, clarify aspects of it.
I thought we had this discussion though, that a first read is not
it's
up
the
for discussion.
information.
Did I misremember that?
Yeah, if it appears as an information item, then there's no discussion. But I think first read and second reads, clearly the second read is when we have a vote scheduled, but I think we have feedback and questions for both the first and second reads. I'm looking to my
I see.
capable counterparts.
that's
Julie
right.
and Curtis. Yeah,
I think that's right.
If
Okay.
not as a,
Sorry.
to give more work to the policy subcommittee, I think it would be great if we could have discussions at first reads so that we can just be more efficient and more productive. I mean, one of the whole reasons we have this is so that members in the community, if they're listening, can provide feedback.
that's right, Stephen. So I think you were asking Curtis a question about the moratorium or 5-year wait between when a decision is made regarding library materials Is that right? And I didn't know if you got your response or if you were in the middle of making a point.
Right.
To respond, to make sure that a response has been given, just as a member of this committee, not necessarily in my position in the policy subcommittee, I think that makes perfect and reasonable sense to have the same true for a book that is removed from the collection, that it cannot be proposed to be added for 5 years. I would have no problem balancing those two out in terms of that moratorium, for lack of a better word, on either inclusion or challenge of a book that has been removed and or challenged and not removed. Jake.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you for reading that. This document is the just a little bit of history, and I think we maybe reviewed this when it was an informational item as well. Our three school librarians, Lanesboro, Williamstown, and Mount Greylock, asked really in September of 22 if they could use PD time and if we could allow them space in the central office for their own professional development activity and just, sort of district collaboration building to look at this very specific policy that's in the school committee policy manual. And so Alexandra, who's from Williamstown Elementary, Liza, who's from Mount Greylock, and Julianne, who is from the Lanesboro Library. This document was really given in total to the policy subcommittee from the people that do this professionally. So I will, before we meet again, Jose and Curtis and Julia, which I believe is in early December, maybe, with your permission, I will go back to the three librarians and ask them if this is true, then is this true? That's an interesting question, Steve. And they can certainly do the reach out through their network and see what that looks like, so we can bring that to the policy subcommittee. Thank you for that time.
Thanks. Yeah, and again, I don't think this is going to happen that often, but as a general rule, if something has been discussed, we don't want to keep discussing it meeting after meeting after meeting unless there is something truly exceptional.
Yeah.
And it might be worth putting in some language, for an exceptional situation. But
yep, thank you.
Yep.
So I went to a session on banned books at the conference, and it was really fascinating. One of the things I learned is that we do not use the term, should not use the term librarian. We should be using school library teacher. That was from the National Library Association, and preferably licensed school library teacher. But in any case, that's a minor point, sort of. I have a PowerPoint from that session that I shared with Jake and Joe, and I'd like to ask that it be shared with the policy subcommittee and with our librarians as well, or sorry, school library teachers as well. And part of that is not just semantics, it's that they are really, the word librarian is, it sort of brings up antiquated ideas of what a library teacher does these days. It's quite different. And they're trained, they're licensed, they're trained in curriculum development and in how to spot, certain issues. And there is a licensure process, which I believe at least two of our library teachers have gone through. So, I think it's worth looking at the language that we use and also at the rest of the material. Thanks.
Thank you, Jose, Julia. Anything else from the policy subcommittee? All right, Curtis, take some drinks of water. That was a lot. think that was 6 pages long for anyone who doesn't know what was going on there. Okay, next up on the agenda is the field and track project update. Is this Joe or Carrie?
Joe, why don't you go ahead? You put it together.
Either way can work, but first item here is the liquidation of the Williams College gift to Montreal Regional School. This is a procedural item where we are expecting to use probably all of the Williams College gift over the course of the next year in association with this field and track project, as well as some trailing responsibilities that we had from prior motions by the prior votes by the committee. With that in mind, if the college's endowment and therefore the gift as it's being managed as a part of the college's endowment were to take an unexpected negative downturn over the course of that period of time, it could put our ability to fully fund the project at some risk. And so it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and let the college know officially that we as a school district would like to protect that gift from any risk. And that also means that, of course, the reverse would be true, that we would also be removing it from any potential reward associated with it being managed actively by the college's investment. So this vote here tonight is to vote to authorize the school district to reach out to the college to say, please go ahead and take all of those funds out of active management, place them into a stable and secure bank account type environment, so that we will know exactly what we have available when we need it over the course of the next 12 months. Carrie, did I represent that the way you?
Yeah. So I think Joe has already raised the question with the folks at the college as to how we should proceed, but we would like the vote in order to enable us to proceed. So I'll move that we, oh, sorry, Julia. Read.
Oh, I was just going to second.
Okay.
But you should finish saying the motion.
I'll move that the Mount Greylock Regional School Committee move forward with the process of liquidating the Williams College capital gift in order to use it for the Mount Greylock track and field project.
And I second that.
One little tidbit maybe to add to that motion, just for the person reading it 5 years from now. It's only the Williams College gift to Mount Greylock Regional School rather than also the gift to Williams.
The Williams College capital gift to Mount Greylock School. Yep. Thanks.
Is it Mount Greylock School or Mount Greylock Regional School? Sorry.
Mount Greylock Regional School would be the legal.
Yep.
Christina, do you want to call for discussion? Or were you thinking I would do that?
I was thinking you were doing that since it was.
Gotcha. All right. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Bowen, aye.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, aye.
Green, aye.
Miller, aye.
Great, thank you. That motion passes. So the next item is something that we discussed at the last meeting, which is a small ceremony, very informal, to mark the occasion. We've sent out invitations for the groundbreaking. for Friday, November 17th, which is this coming Friday. And I think we said we're asking people from outside of the district who'd like to attend. Anyone is welcome to arrive by 12:15, 12:20, 12:20. We'll do the ceremony around 12:30. And we'll have some light refreshments. Yes.
Yes, we
Yes.
in that kind of funny way, because that's the perfect moment to make sure that we can have any and all students who want to participate involved. So the shovels will go in the ground right at 12:30 sharp, so that we can make sure to get people back into the school building ready for the rest of their school day. And the refreshments will just be a little bit of warm cider, just in case the weather's not too favorable for it. That'll steal people to be out there for an extra 10 minutes.
Quick question.
Yes.
So given that this is going to be in the middle of the school day where a lot of parking spaces will be filled by kids who are driving to school, I assume we'll have the gates open so that if people need to park, they can park down by the old fields and everything?
Yeah, we will try to manage traffic as it comes in as best we can, and we'll certainly make all parking.
Perfect. Perfect, thank you.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to that ceremony for sure. Yay. Okay, thank you,
Yay.
Carrie. Thank you, Joe.
Yep. So we're right on to finance, I think. And Joe, do you want to? So there are I think 3 documents, budget documents in the packet. One is the budget timeline, but there is also is one of those documents the first quarter update?
Yeah,
Yes. And
the annual overview of regular business items, and that includes our town meetings, which then allow us to back into when a public hearing date can or should be. And then 2 documents related to the first quarter update. One just being a chart of accounts glossary, and then the second being the full set of raw data related to finances year to date. All exactly what the finance subcommittee reviewed last week.
And the really big news is that through lots of hard work on Joe's part and the finance department's part, we're getting really close to having all the codes being where we want them to be. And it's how many years past regionalization, expanded region? You know, it takes time. That's the lesson, right? So when people ask me about expanding the region, which they always do, expanding their regions or combining districts, you know, that's always the caveat. It's like, be patient, give yourself some grace. It takes time, and this is what seems to take the longest, is just making sure that all the financial codes from, especially we had 3 different systems. So what you're seeing now is the closest we've come to having one cohesive financial system, which is really kind of cool.
About that, but by the end of this school year, I feel like everything will have gelled into the right form. Everybody will be in the right place, and all the reporting can actually come in a way that doesn't require a ton of reworking in order for it to be intelligent. So we're getting there.
Yeah. And then back to the overview of regular business. So the dates for the town meetings would be Williamstown town meeting is May 21st, 2024. And that has been starting at 7 o'clock, but I don't know that they've set the time yet. Lanesboro town meeting is June 11th, 2024, and they typically start at 6 o'clock. So mark your calendars.
And as of right now, we're holding to public hearing being March 14th. So that's one of our big annual meetings. So if you can have it on your calendar, that would be wonderful. The state is indicating that unlike the last couple of years, as their own budgets for us have come out later than the norm. The state should have the governor's budget, that first set of numbers that we typically use to know where we stand in building our budget, that they will have that actually ahead of usual schedule. So we might get it late December, which would be a wonderful gift. It would allow us to kick off our more detailed plan, aside from just wishes and hopes and dreams. It would allow us to kick that off a lot earlier. So that March 14th date looks good right now. I don't think we should need to push that unless there's some external change.
And we would go right into a school committee meeting from that. So again, I'm not sure about the time, whether we would start at 5 and then do school committee at 6, or if we would start at 6 and do school committee whenever we're done. So I think that's yet to be determined, unless folks have already decided, but they would be back to back, I believe, unless we have to change a date.
Great, thank you.
So with the agenda, we also have, and it does not necessarily, legally, it does not need to be a vote, but it's there as kind of a just as a proper stake in the ground. When the state came out with its rural aid figures for this year, they increased, and there's no promise of this being consistent next year by any stretch, but they increased our rural aid, which is funds that come to us for the purpose of operating our schools in the given year. They need to be expended fully during this fiscal year. They cannot be carried forward into the next fiscal year in any part. But they supplied us with almost $200,000 more than we had ever projected. That was a wonderful surprise. What that means is we went back and we looked. I mean, one, how are we doing so far at this point in the year? So far, we're tracking in a pretty good way. Now our substitute costs, which have really thrown us for a loop last year, we're not fully into that season yet, but we did make sure that we budgeted, trying to protect ourselves from a year similar to what we had last year. And so what we would like to do is we'd like to go to the one-time area, meaning not something where we can rely upon it for salaries for staff for years to come. The one-time area that we did not get into this school year's budget, but where we have a fairly desperate need, which is renewing the staff computers at Mount Greylock Regional School, so all the teachers and related staff. That is an expense where pretty much all laptops that are in operation right now for that school building are about 8 years old, between 7 and 10 years. And that's a very, it's a sizable, very lumpy kind of expense, approaching $200,000 when we had costed it out last spring. And we had decided that we just could not get it into this year's regular budget. These are funds that are coming to us without a ton of leeway as far as ways for us to use them over the course of years or apply them to staff, knowing that we will then receive similar funds in later years. And so it feels appropriate to go back to that item that we had talked about last spring, said that if grant funds become available for this kind of purpose, that we would use them in that way. So we wanted to make sure to bring that to all of you, to just kind of verify that the grant funds, it isn't as though we're revoting a budget or anything like that. It's simply, these are funds that are available that need to be used this year, and we wanted to make sure that we put that in front of you as a full committee. We had already done it at the finance subcommittee last week, but we should take it through a full cycle, and then we would bring in a potential expense back to the finance subcommittee once we had our detailed quotes and we were ready to go. We would do that at some point over the next few weeks. Comments, questions? And again, I don't think it requires a vote. It's just that the finance subcommittee is going to see a warrant with and a purchase order go through. I would want to make sure that they did not feel as though they were out on their own, saying yes to something that they might not feel they have the authority to do. Just staring at that invoice.
Would you feel better if we did a vote to?
Honestly, from our auditor's perspective, they're not. No, I don't have any personal liability or concern. It's more of a.
Okay.
It's good to make sure we all know where these funds are going and when funds come in that are unexpected, that we make it pretty clear what we're doing and why.
Great. Thank you, Joe. Anything else from Finance Subcommittee? All right. So next up on the agenda is the Superintendent Report. So I turn it over to Jake.
So with my apologies, I will not be bringing forward the district improvement plan or my goals attached to it tonight. It's really important to me, and it's important to the folks that are colleagues, and it's important to the families and the students and the staff that we all serve, that we do all of these things right and do them in the best way possible, not only, promoting the right outcomes. And we are just simply not there yet. So I ask for your indulgence and thank you for your patience that ideally we'll be bringing this forward next month. But I am very aware that it is looking tardy at this point, but really appreciate the patience so we can do this to a level and with mechanisms that we're proud to bring forward. And I will own every ounce of tardiness that this is, and I will own it alone. But we won't be bringing that forward this evening. I will say, just as I generally try to do during superintendent report, just again, amazing opportunities for students here in our school district, and with a particular focus here in the past couple of weeks on Mount Greylock Regional School. With so much going on, as Charlotte alluded to, we're very proud of all of our fall athletes, including the athletes that are still playing, our varsity volleyball team. And I'm not sure what day they're playing. It's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but I believe the venue is Worcester State University for the state championship volleyball game. We still have cross-country runners who are going to the state cross-country race. Our other fall athletes are football players that play with their friends and neighbors over at Drury. Drury wrapped up a great season. We were thrilled to host a home game here about a month ago. Men's and women's soccer, again, a fantastic season for both of them. We're just very proud of all of the students. And right before this meeting started, in fact, I had to walk faster than I generally like to walk to get here on time. Tonight was the Red and White Unified Basketball Classic over in the gymnasium at Mount Greylock Regional School, and it was an absolutely packed house. And that's why I'm wearing a hoodie to a school committee meeting. That's not my usual attire, so I thank you for understanding that. And then really this past weekend had the opportunity to once again see the Fall Festival of Shakespeare in action. And those of you who weren't able to make it should be jealous of those of us who were. As a recovering ninth grade English teacher for many years and having taught Romeo and Juliet, varying degrees of success, it's a play I've seen in multiple films, seen multiple times live, have read probably 50 times. And I will tell you, our students, grades 7 through 12, along with facilitated by Shake & Co. from Lennox, an unbelievable performance. So many laughs for a tragedy. but just a remarkable staging of a beautiful play. And to see students, some of whom are 13, some of whom are 18, and to see all of them just completely getting the words of the bard, getting what that show was about, and understanding how it all comes together, just unbelievable. So as always, congratulations and thank you to the young people that we work with and work for here in the district. And again, thank you for your understanding on wanting to get the new multi-year district improvement plan right rather than get it out. And I do think it's important to say, I see my time with you all as a long-term commitment. We, a new contract for Joe was approved with a new title. We want to get things done quickly because it matters for kids, but we always want to get things done right. And we appreciate that dedication that you all have to the same ends. And I hope everybody that's hearing this is able to join us for the groundbreaking on Friday. It's a big event. Had an interview with a writer from the Echo today about the event, and we're just so excited. And the notion of seeing so many students out there on a November Friday afternoon to welcome this notion of a new playing field and a new home track is just amazing. And I started lobbying at the conference Carrie and Joelle and I were at. I started lobbying that we host Special Olympics at our earliest convenience once the track is completed. So thank you all.
Jake, can I just also mention that Romeo and Juliet will be performed at Shake & Co. Fall Festival this Saturday at 8:30 p.m. So if anybody missed
Thank
it
you.
and still wants to see it, head on down to Lenox.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Jake. Next up on the agenda is the MASC division update. So back to Carrie.
So I was texting Jake shortly after the resolutions session at the conference, and it was bonkers. I'm just gonna, that's the word I used with Jake. It was wild. It was bonkers. It was long. People were agitated. Some people were impatient. People were calling for the whole thing to be adjourned. It was, I don't know, I haven't seen anything like it, but that's to say a lot of the resolutions were tabled and were not taken back up. The DEIB resolution, I actually tried to, well, I did submit an amendment based on the conversation that we had here. And there were amendments to the amendment, and then there were amendments to the amendments to the amendment. And then it just got so crazy that nobody knew what to do with it. And I felt bad. I mean, I really felt bad because everybody was on board with the fact that districts should be accountable, that they should be working toward, if not I mean, a lot of the folks sorry, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. One of the messages that came out of it was that the focus really should be on equity, and the diversity inclusion is good, but the focus curricularly and policy wise and in terms of leadership, there should be an equity officer in every school district, because everything comes down to equity, whether it's literacy or social studies or the budget. It all just comes down to, are we doing right by our kids? And that's an equity issue. And it exists in every district. And many districts, and I actually had this conversation last year with folks from Michigan, which is a very diverse district. They have a chief equity officer because equity spans everyone. It just covers everything. So that was interesting that some of that they wanted to take anti-racist out of it altogether. And these were not white people saying this. These were Black school committee members saying, this is not about race. This is about equity. So really good discussions, but heated a little bit, I would say. There was another one that took quite a while and then eventually got tabled. I think it was the MCAS one. It's just a very touchy subject. MCAS came up quite a lot over the course of the conference as being an equity issue as well. Not the test, but the fact that the test is still being held as a qualification for graduation. So the state of Massachusetts, I believe it was said that is one of 8 states that still uses the MCAS or a standardized test as a requirement for graduation, and that many states have done away with the requirement. We have to have a test. It's federally mandated, but we do not have to have a test as a requirement for graduation. So there were quite a few, and including one of the keynote speakers, who is the Massachusetts Teacher of the Year from Martha's Vineyard, lobbied quite heavily to dispense with MCAS as a requirement for graduation, as did several other speakers. And then there were some really good keynotes. There were a number of really good sessions, including one that Joelle participated in on literacy, early literacy, I forget what the title was exactly. Here we go. I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. Partnering for equity in early literacy. There was another one on supporting culturally responsive social studies with investigating history. That's a program that we'll be participating in when it comes out of its pilot phase. The session that I moderated, I was asked to moderate, was Equity in Action, a district's journey toward becoming anti-racist. And that was done by our colleagues from Pittsfield, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, I believe. They did a fabulous job of talking about their process and what consultants they were working with, and they shared everything. They shared all of their resources and all of their documents, and it was just it was a packed session. Also, just lots of folks really looking to learn from the work that they had done. We had a division meeting, which was good. We had about a dozen people there brainstorming what kind of training school committee members are looking for in Berkshire County. We heard from Jeff Riley, the Commissioner of Education, Pat Tutwiler, the Mass Secretary of Education, Jarnissa Monte-Jackson, who's an educational and racial equity strategist. Danielle Charbonneau is the Teacher of the Year. Francisco Negron talked about the Supreme Court and the decisions that have come out of the court and the effects on higher ed, and also, what to look for, how this could potentially impact secondary education, some of the decisions that have happened recently. So I would say all in all, it was a really good conference. And the sessions that I went to a session in almost every block, and each one was just really rich in content and ideas, right? So I think that's it.
Awesome, thank you.
Can I ask
Any-
a question?
Yeah.
So that it was let's say an interesting discussion on the resolutions. Was this because a lot of people had concerns and corrections and changes that they wanted to make?
Yes.
And
People
so
had.
this was really their first opportunity to propose changes like this, because the way it's done, the resolution is on the agenda, and this is the first time people have an opportunity to talk amongst each other. I'm just wondering, structurally going forward, if there's a way for the MASC to think about the procedure so that maybe someone proposes, this is what we want to bring forward, but we're going to have a comment period where people can send us their suggestions, and then we'll finalize our language.
So they did receive some amendments by email, but you're talking
Right.
about finalizing the language before it gets voted by the resolution committee, because it's the resolution committee that puts forward the resolutions to the full body. So I think Steve, what you're suggesting is that somehow the draft resolutions get circulated, and then okay. Yeah, I'm happy to pass that along.
Just something to consider, because then a lot of issues might be addressed, and when the resolution comes from the resolution committee, they can say, we discussed this, we heard the following concerns, and this led us to the following language. And then that might save some of the conversation.
Yeah, I will say that the question came up, Julia, the one that you had raised about the owner versus operator on the school bus, the camera systems on school buses, transportation. It turns out that feedback. Steve, is that you? Oh, yeah, thanks. There's no legal way to identify who the driver is in Massachusetts. We have no like stop sign cameras. We have no stop light cameras in the state of Massachusetts. And the only thing that can be legally identified is a license plate, which leads you to the owner and not the driver. So people did raise that question, and it's a deficit in the state, and one that people were not happy about, but it just there wasn't a way to do it. So I just thought you'd want to know that. But Steve, I'll raise that point with the chair of the resolutions committee.
Thank you.
Because they receive draft resolutions. I mean, they must. So why not circulate them to the membership in the draft form?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie.
Yep.
For bringing back that report. Okay. Next up on the agenda, upcoming meetings. And before I read the list that's on the agenda, I'm going to remind everybody, groundbreaking ceremony this Friday, 12:30 sharp, shovels in the ground, be there at 12:15. Exciting. Policy subcommittee meeting, December 6th at 5 p.m. Finance subcommittee meeting, December 14th at 5 p.m. Our next regular session school committee meeting is December 14th at 6 p.m. And then finance subcommittee, January 11th at 5 p.m., possibly in person. Yet to be determined.
So is that also the date of the school committee meeting? Because because the reason that was in person was it was meant to be like a finance rolling into school committee. And we were, Joe, am I thinking of the right date that we were thinking about the January might be a good time to meet as a finance committee to talk about priorities, but then also to be able to potentially have an in-person school committee meeting.
That is definitely the normal date for our school committee meeting.
Yes.
So I think that's why it's on the agenda, is to kind of give people an opportunity to pencil it in as an in-person meeting for school committee as well, and see what people thought about that.
Great time of year for an in-person meeting, Carrie.
I know, right? Why not? We all have plows on our vehicles.
All right. Jose, did you have a question?
No, just ask. Just wanted. I'm sure this is all being considered and planned for, but I do worry about lack of access for members of our community to streams of the. I mean, I don't know what it looked like pre-COVID, but just curious about what we're planning on for an in-person school committee meeting to kind of maintain access. Without, I guess, presumably we won't have Zoom, or will we have Zoom for members of the school committee who won't be able to make it?
So I can speak to where we stand right now, which is right now, if we were to have a meeting,
We can't hear you, Joe.
we can't.
You're like you sound really far away.
Yeah, you're not
sound
muted,
muffled.
you are muffled.
How about now?
That's good.
That's better. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. So if we have an in-person meeting right now, it could be streamed live. It could be on WillieNet Live. It could be on YouTube Live, for everybody to watch. In terms of participation, we do not have a good solution right now for how to have effectively a group of people, a group of committee members in a room, and have a great Zoom thing happening as well. That's been our hurdle from having good hybrid meetings. And so I think that's something that, prior to holding, say, a public hearing, for instance, you might want to think twice before trying to do it. This January meeting felt like it was a moment where, for the full school committee, it's going to be a relatively steady as they go, not a ton of items. Whereas for the finance subcommittee, it could be a good chance to start to get back into a room together, workshopping, talking about budget related planning, and be able to ease back into that. But it's not, we can also do that kind of a workshop thing during a finance subcommittee meeting that does not then lead into a full school committee meeting too. I'll offer that up.
Curtis?
In regards to the hybrid in-person but still Zoom accessible for community members and stakeholders to participate rather than just observing the live stream, I've been kind of mulling this over in my head how to problem solve that, and I did have the thought that a school committee member, if so inspired or appointed, could chair the Zoom for public access. Part of one box on the Zoom can be the live stream of the entire meeting, which allows anyone to tune in, see both the stream, and make public comment in the public comment section via Zoom. That's really the only part that the public would be interactive for. Otherwise, watching the stream is the same as being on Zoom, if you know what I mean. So we could ostensibly, for the public comment portion, have Zoom open for one school committee member or more if they wanted to be on the Zoom just for public comment, and then the rest of the meeting is available via the live stream. Just a thought I had in terms of trying to make this integrated in person, but still remote accessible, participatory, blah, blah, blah.
So I asked about this at the conference, and something that we're starting to use at work, and someone said that they use it for their meetings, is this gadget called Owl. And it's the, you know, it actually looks like an owl. Well, sort of has an owl face. And it rotates, the camera rotates to whoever's speaking, and it is meant as a tool for a hybrid meeting. So that's another thing that we could look into. Yeah.
Not that I want to take us way down into all the details, but I think part of the challenge has been the way our microphone setup works. It would make it challenging to have all of those microphones going into a Zoom as of right. We would need additional hardware to be able to do it into a Zoom versus just doing it into, and this goes beyond my pay or expertise grade, something. But we can certainly, I think maybe this is an indication that we can start to look again at hybrid meeting options, whether it's Curtis's solution or the owl type rotating camera to pinpoint who's speaking and focus in on them. But we can just take it that way.
And it may be also, I know that it was expensive to create the hybrid setup at the municipal town hall, but maybe all that equipment, maybe the prices have come down. And if we talk to WillieNet about what's available, you know, maybe there's a solution that's not as pricey.
I'll offer to come back to the committee in December and just let you know what we're thinking.
Okay. And then maybe we can just poll everyone to see if they'll be able to get to the January 11th meeting in person, and that will help guide that final decision. All right. Julia, did you have your hand up?
I was anticipating your next agenda item.
I have no other items for discussion. Any agenda requests? Julia.
I noticed in our packet and the upcoming meetings that there is talk of a school committee evaluation in December, a self-evaluation, and school committee goals, and a January retreat. And all of those things, I'm wondering, if we're doing a January retreat, I'm wondering what the status is on those, because waiting until December to try to think about a January retreat or a school committee evaluation feels like it's going to be really truncated and unable to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've had a ton of discussion around it. I think we need to wait for superintendent goals before we can really get to that point too.
Yeah, my way in, for what it's worth, Julia, would be that you know, some of that guiding annual calendar is, we look at it every year, we tweak it every year, but it is not etched in stone. And I think I am hesitant to take anything off, because the school committee owns the school committee and the communities own the school committee. I certainly feel like at this point, we have our hands full administratively with our continued self-reflection and our continued self-evaluation and planning for years ahead. I am not sure that it's a great investment of anyone's time at this point for the committee to put their energy into self-evaluation or doing a retreat that's not incredibly well thought out, incredibly necessary, and will lead to outcomes that work for the committee, for staff, for kids, and for the community. So I would suggest treating those as they're there, but nobody is bound by those or by that document.
Julia?
Yeah,
You-
I saw it on the agenda. I saw it on the list of things. I know it's something we've done in the past, so I wanted to raise it. I could absolutely honor the idea that we should not have a retreat for the sake of a retreat. And in fact, I think we had a pretty effective one last summer, not too long ago. And
Mhm.
it may be that we want to, you know, just be thinking about how might we effectively spend time together as a committee this summer. Maybe something similar to what we've done in the past.
Great. Thank you, Julia, for bringing that up. Any other agenda requests? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Miller, so moved.
Miller moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can we vote in reverse order because my plane is boarding?
Yes.
Miller, yes. Miller, yes.
Elfenbein,
Alright.
yes. The alphabet's hard, guys.
No, wait.
Oh, no,
is it
it's
supposed to
green.
be me? It's
Yeah.
green.
Yeah.
Sorry, green. I keep missing all right. Green eye.
Elfenbein, I.
Constantine, I.
Conry, aye.
Bo and I.
Thank you. It is 7:37 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.
I wonder if
travels,
Steve is
Steven.
boarding
So
a
much, everyone.
737. That would be so cool.
What?
That would be
7:37?
really cool. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
Jose.
Jose.
That's
Jose,
really cool.
wow.
Whoa,
Marco
that was
is.
Fancy.
fabulous.
It's all good. Have a good night, everyone.